Hello and welcome to the Wellness Trinity podcast, where we interview top holistic experts and bring you natural solutions for modern day wellness. Let's get started with your host, Dr. Jacqueline.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining the Wellness Trinity podcast. I'm Dr. Jacqueline, naturopathic doctor and owner of the Wellness Trinity, where we provide natural solutions for modern day wellness. So just a little disclaimer before we get started. What we discuss in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. What you do with the information is to be used at your discretion, as the recommendations are not intended to treat, cure, prevent, or diagnose any diseases. So today I have a special guest on the show. His name is Rodney Vestal, right?
Right, Vestal.
Vestal. And I met him at the naturopathic convention in Las Vegas last year. And I was already on this kick with infrared sauna. I knew I had to have one. And he just wooed me into his booth to try this special sauna out that I thought was quite interesting because half of your body is sticking out of it. I thought it was actually just for fun, but he ended up describing all the health benefits to me. And after 30 minutes of sitting in this infrared sauna, even at a low heat, it was only 118 degrees, which it can go higher. I was so impressed. I left and I told everyone at the convention they needed to try it. And then I saw him several months later at another convention, and I told everyone there that they needed to try this. And I tried many other saunas with various different price ranges. The ones that are lower, ones that are higher, and this one just seemed to kick them all out of the ballpark. So we are having another ANMA convention, which is the naturopathic convention we hold here in Las Vegas every year, and it's going to be on August 23rd through the 25th, and Rodney is going to be there with his personal infrared saunas again. And so this is why I decided that we are going to have this podcast right now, so that we can describe all the health benefits of the personal infrared sauna. And I guess I forgot to mention also, I just got mine in the mail this week, and I am still impressed. I've been in the sauna for several hours since I've got it, probably about 2 days ago. I just got it 2 days ago and already sat in it several hours because it just feels that good. I mean, you can work in it and you can detox at the same time with it without feeling discomforted, which is quite an interesting concept. So Rodney has a BA in theater arts and communication from San Diego University. However, his passion has always been creating a lifestyle of wellness outside the normal or traditional allopathic modalities through nutrition and athletics. He is a black belt in karate, the Chuck Norris system, 14 years as a competitive triathlete, certified Reebok spin instructor, and he invented a deep water running system to improve running performance without the pounding on the roads. A journey spanning 45 years of personal and professional exploration of health, while spending the last 19 years becoming an expert in infrared, including the healing and recovery qualities of this technology. So Rodney, without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to the convention. And one other thing, if I could see that I'm sitting in my sauna. I don't know if I pulled the camera down so you can see the front of it, but I'm literally sitting in my sauna to do this podcast with you.
So that's how incredible it is. He can do a podcast while he is sitting in his sauna, and I'm sure it must feel great in there.
Oh, it's terrific. Yeah. And again, like you said, I will sit in here for hours a day. As long as I'm at my desk, I use this as my desk.
Yeah. So do you find that it also helps you to function better, to work better?
Yeah, I'm focused. I'm focused the entire time I'm here. I do a lot of editing, a lot of video editing. And when you edit, you have to keep track of several different things at once. And if you lose track, you have to go back, you have to redo, you have to reset the sound. It's just a lot of work. I'm never at a loss for functioning, concentrating when I'm in the sauna.
Yeah. So for those of you that can't see this sauna right now, or didn't see what he just showed us, you notice that he's not sitting in something that's enclosed where I almost want to call it like a chamber. And it's not one of those ones that go all the way up to your neck where your your hands and everything is inside except your neck. His whole upper half of his body is sticking out. And so why is that? Why did you guys?
Well, to be more technically correct, the first heater that's on your back hits just under your shoulder blades and then wraps underneath you and literally surrounds you with 6 different heaters. So here's what we discovered. We did some infrared photography, and we discovered that, and it's just out of curiosity, we discovered by taking a model and sitting her in this sauna, like I'm sitting now, and photographing her from the chest up, sort of chest in her head, the part of the body that's out of the sauna. And we kept track of all those photographs. And the next day we used the same person, put them in a whole body sauna and measured the rise in their body core temperature just from her chest up. And what we found was that her body temperature raised exactly the same, degree for degree. So essentially what we proved is that the infrared's going to affect the body exactly the same, whether you're enclosed in that chamber or that box or that sauna or not. So now you're sitting out here and you're not breathing hot air. You're breathing room temperature air or cooler air. Your body stays cooler on the outside while the infrared is still affecting you exactly the same way on the inside.
Nice. Yeah, and you don't feel so stressed in there as well as in when you're in one of those that are enclosed, or even those ones where your head pops out. I still feel kind of stressed, like I can't move.
Yeah, so that's why we call it an open design. And look, we know, and you know this, and I'm going to guess that everybody watching this podcast is already understands this, and that is the body, when it's in the sympathetic nervous system, is not healing. It's using its resources to live. It's in the parasympathetic that the body does all its healing. This is the only sauna, by keeping your head and your heart out of the heat, it's the only sauna that puts you in the parasympathetic and keeps you there the entire time you're in it. Every other sauna, for example, you step into a sauna, no matter the temperature, the first thing that people do is they look at their watch and say, how long can I sustain in this environment before I need to get out? I'm going to try to stay in for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then they come out and say, well, I was in for 20 minutes. I feel pretty good about that. And their body, you go in, their heart contracts, it goes tachycardic, it starts beating harder. And they start to sweat, and that's the classic definition of stress. So they're going in this thing and immediately putting their body under stress. Now, granted, that 15 minutes or 20 minutes, there is some benefit, but they don't get the full measure of benefit that they would get by spending the exact same amount of time in this sauna. The other thing is, most manufacturers say you can sit in our sauna for 30 minutes every other day. And so that begs the question, why? Why can't I do it every day, and why can't I do it longer? Because the heat dehydrates the brain. And so you spend the rest of that time that you're not in the sauna recovering from that sauna and rehydrating the brain. And that's why they're so strict about their regulations on walk-in saunas.
Oh, wow. So can you explain to the listeners what infrared is?
Sure. Infrared is a light, and it's on the light spectrum. So the easiest way to imagine this is if you see a rainbow. There's 3 colors on the top of the rainbow that you cannot see, and there's 2 colors on the bottom of the rainbow you cannot see. On the top of the rainbow is far infrared, mid-infrared, and near infrared. Those are the first 3 colors of the rainbow. You cannot see them. The first light over the horizon in the morning is far infrared. First light waves over the horizon are far infrared. And from my research, about the first 44 minutes of light over the horizon is infrared. The bottom two colors are UVA and UVB. And while those are great, those two colors are great for photosynthesis, we absolutely need them. And they're also what produces vitamin D. So they are necessary. However, you don't need great quantities of it. And so what we've done is isolated the infrared spectrum, a very small slice of the infrared spectrum, and created, and this is with most saunas, and created a heater system that encapsulates a very small portion of the infrared spectrum that they have over the last 60 years found out that you get the greatest benefit.
So why do you think that it's better to have a full spectrum versus some saunas are just near or some are just far?
So that's a really good question. It's a question I hear every time I talk to people. Far infrared penetrates inch and a half, depending on the individual. What we're trying to do is we're trying to affect the subcutaneous layer of fat just under the skin. So you don't need a deeper penetration than that. It's not a hot light, so you're not risking overheating. You're not risking burning your skin, and its efficacy is still high. Now, near infrared, and you see the red lamps and the saunas with red lamps on them. We have a red lamp on ours as well, so we cover the full spectrum, but we specifically put it in the seat, and we do that specifically for uterine health, colorectal health, prostate health, general gut level health. But because near infrared is very hot, the lamp is very hot, and it can burn and blister the skin, we also have an on-off switch for it so that there's no occurrence of burning, the person that's sitting in the sauna. If you look at a near infrared only sauna, and their claim to fame is that it penetrates more deeply, which is absolutely true. However, you are still limited by how long you can stay inside, because they're always enclosed and they're very, very hot. And the other is they always have a chair that rotates. And what they tell you is, no, we want to touch your entire body. That's why we want you to rotate on this chair. That's not true. If it's what I call the rotisserie chicken effect, right? If you sit there in one place, you are going to burn your skin. You are going to blister your skin. Therefore, you have to continue to turn every few seconds so that you don't blister your skin. And again, its efficacy is it's limited by how long you can sit in that sauna.
Mm-hmm. On the note of infrared and how we mentioned that it's basically the light that's coming from, it's like the light that's coming from the sun. I just find it so interesting. We had discussed this before we started, how light is mentioned 272 times in the Bible. It's incredible how many times it's mentioned, don't you think?
I do. I think it's amazing. And it's not just that it talks about light, is what it says about light. And you just go, wow, that's true. Interestingly enough, and this is another thing we talked about, and that was they discovered last year that when the sperm penetrates the ovum for the very first time, there's an explosion of light, and they filmed that, and they know that's how where life starts, is right there at that explosion of light. So life starts with light, and that's why light is so good for us. I really believe that.
Right. And I mean, we call this the healing power of infrared fact or fiction. So why would we even consider that it might be a fiction?
Because it absolutely is. I know that may be surprising to hear, but infrared and this sauna doesn't heal anything. tell people that, and it seems like it's not very good for sales, right? There's 6 heaters surrounding the body. The body, here's what I tell everybody. The body is a healing machine, but we compromise our immune system. We fill our body with toxins on a daily basis. We overeat. We have too much visceral fat on our bodies. We do all these things to ourselves that hinder the body from doing its job, and that is going in and healing. I mean, anything. The body can heal anything given the right format. All the sauna does is it goes in and helps clean up those things that we have created, detoxifies the body, helps increase circulation all the way down to the capillaries, pulls the cells apart and pulls the toxins out. It literally cleans the blood. It alkalines the blood, so that the 80% of your blood that is water is in an alkaline state. There's just so much that it does to put the body back into a state where now it can go in and start chipping away at the things that are wrong with it. So let the body do what it does best, and that's heal. Mm-hmm. But make no mistake, the body's doing the healing. The sauna is just facilitating that healing.
Yeah. So basically, we're getting to the root of the problem. And what I explain to my clients is that we want to be at homeostasis, where our body's healthiest and happiest. If we have too much of a bad thing, if we have toxins and infections, or if we have not enough of a good thing, deficiencies, our body gets all thrown off. And so the sauna sounds like it's dealing with a lot of the toxins and the infections, the too much of a bad thing.
Yeah, and there's almost nothing. The interesting thing is that so every other modality out there, and there's several. We've seen several products, and we talked about, and I didn't want to mention it, but the other one that we spoke of, they all have a ton of contraindications. If even the full body saunas, I have a list this long, this long, that if you have any of these wrong with you, stay away. If you have any heart issues, if you have diabetes, if you have autoimmune, if any of these things, stay out of that full body sauna. Mine, there's 2 contraindications. One, if you're pregnant, don't get in, because we don't know how heating, and we've always said don't heat up the fetus, right? Mm-hmm. So although ironically, as soon as you give birth, the first thing they do is put the newborn under an infrared lamp. And isn't that interesting? The first thing they do with your life is put you under an infrared lamp.
So they give you more light after the sperm and the
exactly together. and secondly, we don't want anybody on chemo to be in the sauna, because the fact is it rebuilds your immune system so quickly that it is counteracting what they're trying to do with chemo.
Okay. Those
are the 2 things. Otherwise, have at it. Anybody. I don't care if MS, people say, well, no, I'm triggered by heat. And they get in here and they go, oh my God, that's completely different than the heat that I was talking about.
Well, yeah. And like I said in the beginning, when I first tried it, it was at 118 degrees. I don't even know if I broke a sweat, and I felt incredible after. So obviously whatever is going on with all those 6 heaters and the black tourmaline. Why don't you mention about that? That's on the back.
So we have 2 models. The recline model is the higher end model. On the back, it has the infrared heater, but there are about 100 black tourmaline stones on that heater that are pushing the infrared through tourmaline, and that effectively negatively charges the body, right? What happens with all our cell phones and all electronics and all the radiation in the air, our body changes its charge and it becomes a positive charge, and our body doesn't do well on a positive charge. This helps realign the body into a negative charge, and to be able to do that on a daily basis is invaluable.
Right. And it's comfortable too. I mean, you literally can, the one I have has a recliner. You literally can recline and you can get pretty comfortable in there.
Every show I do, somebody sits in it and just reclines, and they set their head back and they're asleep within minutes.
Yeah.
Every show I have people fall asleep.
So back to what we're talking about with detoxing. So it deals with infections, viruses, pathogens, bacteria. What about parasites?
Parasites. See, all these things that you mentioned have a difficult. So what we talk about raising the body core temperature. Hippocrates said, "Give me the power to create a fever, and I will cure the world's diseases." So he knew even back then that viruses, pathogens, parasites, they couldn't live at a temperature. He realized that when you got sick, your body raised its own temperature. It did it as a defense against the virus or the parasite or the pathogen or whatever was there. And people generally get better because they're weakening or killing the virus. And that's what we are doing on a daily basis. So it gets, when we do that, even let's say you're exposed to the flu on a plane and you come home and you sit in your sauna for a couple hours, and the next day you do it again. Third day you've gone through the incubation period for the flu, and your throat's a little scratched. You go, "Oh no, everybody's got the flu. I must be getting the flu." But you continue to sit in your sauna. The next day you go, "Oh no, I guess I didn't get the flu, right? I'm fine." Well, there's a really good chance that you did have the flu, and that by sitting in the sauna and raising your body core temperature, that you weakened it on a daily basis to the point where it just dissipated. It wasn't strong enough to affect the rest of your body because you were creating the fever. So now putting my body in that healthy fever state every day, it goes a long way towards keeping me healthy.
Wow.
Day in and day out.
Okay, so we talked about infections, and what about heavy metals and chemicals?
So anything where the body stores toxins in the subcutaneous layer of fat just under the skin, right? And then it surrounds it with water molecules to help protect the body against those toxins. So what infrared does is it heats that area and it excites the water molecules, and the water molecules release the toxins. Now the toxins are free to roam. Our body has an entire system for dealing with toxins. And it's going to run through the blood, through the lymph, through the liver, through the kidneys, and we're going to get rid of our toxins through our body's natural waste disposal systems. We talk about the three great myths of infrared saunas. It's one of the things that we talk about all the time when I refer to my sauna, and that is that the higher the temperature, the better. Not true. You can do everything you need to do at a moderate temperature. We suggest 120 degrees, no higher. That you have to be completely enclosed. And we talked about the infrared photography where we showed you don't have to be completely enclosed. But the third one has been controversial for a long, long time. And that is that people think you have to sweat to detox because they think the toxins come out through the sweat. So in 2018, a doctor in Canada with a group of other doctors, did an experiment with world-class athletes and people who use infrared saunas. And what he did is he measured their toxicity level of their sweat. And here's what he found. That in 2 liters of sweat, which is a lot of sweat, there is you sweat out about 1% of your daily intake of toxins in 2 liters, which essentially is zero. If that's 1% of daily intake, that's not 1% of lifetime intake, right? And all the stuff that's backed up. What we find is when we measure through testing of blood and or urine where the toxicity levels have gone down because they were filtered through the body's natural filters, the lymphatic system, the liver, the kidneys, and again out through our body's natural waste disposal. And it's not necessary that we sweat, because what I say is you want to save your sweat for vigorous exercise when you're doing the stair climber or the treadmill at the gym, right? You don't want to sweat in a sauna and get rid of all your electrolytes or all your minerals, because we tend not to replace those very effectively, right? So save your sweat for exertion. Mm-hmm. Use this sauna, don't sweat, and get all the detox benefit, including heavy metals. But and real quick story, and I don't want to take a long time, but real quick story. We had a doctor in New Mexico who had 2 patients that came in with uranium poisoning, which is not unusual in New Mexico. And they went to several doctors, and they just said, you're going to have to live with it. And he said, well, I got these new saunas, our saunas, right? Let's try them. And he called us and said, what protocol should we put him on? I don't know. We've never dealt with the uranium poisoning. Put him in there for an hour a day, 3 days a week, every other day. So they were in there for 3 days a week for 4 months. They tested the levels of uranium, and from off the chart to negligible.
Yeah, I actually was going to ask you about that next, which is funny. You read my mind, because uranium here in Las Vegas is huge, and I've seen it in my test from California as well. So it's in our water or something. And I know in Las Vegas, we did those nuclear bomb testings not too far from Las Vegas. So
yeah, just like New Mexico. Yeah.
It's not a surprise to me at this point when I do test. And the longer it seems someone has lived here, the more uranium they have. And I remember asking you that sometime in the last year about what is the effects on uranium. And I think it's funny how you had that story, how it totally detoxed these people from the uranium. So
here's something you might find interesting, that when he tested them, there was no measurable levels of lithium in their blood. And once the uranium was gone, the lithium levels were off the chart.
Wow.
And so he called and said, what's going on? We have a functional medicine doctor. We called her, and she did start doing some research for us. And here's what she found: that lithium binds itself to heavy metals and is invisible to tests when you're testing for heavy metals. And when we got rid of the uranium, the lithium showed up.
Wow.
And he just kept them on the same protocol. They eventually bought a sauna for their home because they were going to live in New Mexico the rest of their lives. So he put them on the same protocol. And then another 4 months went by, and lithium levels were back to normal.
Wow. Yeah. So I see a lot of lithium very low too. And I didn't know that actually. And lithium has to do with people being a bit bipolar or having some mood challenges. So that's interesting. That's interesting that even with mood challenges or mental disorders, it can help with that as well too.
Yeah. And that's not we see that a lot, not a claim I'm willing to make, but we do see that a lot. We see people with stress. We see people with anxiety issues. It completely changed their whole outlook just by sitting in the sauna. And when they're having issues, they just run to the sauna and it calms them right down.
Wow. I didn't think about it using it right there at that moment when someone's having an episode, but that's a great idea too. So, I mean, it just goes back, at the end of the day, we have toxins and infections that we have to deal with. And if somebody has too much of those things, they don't have enough of the nutrients that they need, then they're going to be off, and including their mental health.
Yeah, I talk about most everything can be traced back to a compromised immune system, right? Because our immune system should be able to handle almost anything. When it can no longer do that, we need to start not only repairing the immune system, but we need to start getting rid of the things that are, clogging the funnel, as it were.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We talk about the drainage funnel here, and those organs that you mentioned, the gut, the liver, the gallbladder, the lymph, if those are not flowing properly, then they're all clogged up with toxins, and we're not able to get them out properly. Therefore, we're going to exhibit different types of symptoms, and now we go to a doctor and it's considered some type of disease. And so at the end of the day, it's too much toxins. We got to get rid of the toxins. And
then they prescribe, if they're not going to a naturopath, or they'll prescribe some drug that will start to make their liver malfunction, and then they prescribe another drug for the liver, and it's just a never-ending cycle side effects.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I know this can also help with inflammation. So arthritis would be in that category. Athletes. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So inflammation is just I kind of call it like stuck blood, right? When you have an injury or when you have arthritis, that the body wants to heal that portion of the body. What infrared does is it helps to alleviate the inflammation. Now, it's pretty technical how it does it, but it literally does it cell by cell, helps removing the inflammation to the point where especially people with arthritis find greater mobility. It gives you more elasticity in your joints. It creates more elasticity even in your veins, so they can dilate, so we can get more blood to the area, so we can pull out the toxins. It treats uric acid, which is one of the primary components of arthritis. It treats it like a toxin, so it helps purge excess uric acid out of the body. So any damage that is already done is hopefully effectively stopped by a daily regimen of infrared, and by being able to keep the inflammation down. They're more mobile day after day. As for athletes, because this creates nitric oxide, and because nitric oxide is so important to dilation and getting blood all the way to the capillaries, it heals, because the extra blood flow heals the muscle so much faster than an athlete. Not only is purging the lactic acid faster, but is healing faster, so that they can work out more effectively and more efficiently day after day. I mean, the same reason people take steroids. I'm not comparing it to steroids, but that's why they do it, because they recover quicker, right? So they can work out harder. The harder you can work out, the stronger or better shape you're going to be in quicker. And that's essentially the function of this little guy, this little sauna.
So it regenerates nerve tissue, right?
Nerve tissue. We've seen cartilage repair. We've seen cell regeneration. I mean, we've seen everything with infrared.
Wow, that's incredible. And then it also helps increase your energy and metabolism. And
well, metabolism, it kind of helps balance metabolism. People's metabolism is way too fast, and that's a problem, right? And some is way too slow. In most cases, it's too slow. And that's generally because the body will actually slow its own metabolism to store more fat so that it can store more toxins. You get rid of the toxins, the body doesn't need the fat anymore and says, hey, I don't need the fat. I'm going to go ahead and go back to where I used to be. And it will bump up its own metabolism to get it back to normal.
Right. So then you actually can lose weight if you're overweight.
I had a lady, and I tell things in stories because that's all I have, right? Besides the research, everybody can look at the research, but I have the anecdotal, which is my favorite part. But a lady came up to me, she said, hey, I used it for a year. I used it an hour a day. I didn't change anything. I don't work out. I don't eat very well, but I'm 25 pounds lighter a year later than I was last year at this time. And the only thing I did differently was sit in the sauna an hour a day. So my general conversation says, hey, 2 pounds a month of body fat is possible by sitting an hour a day. Now, if you modify your diet, if you're eating the right foods, if your metabolism goes back to normal, it could be more. But even ask anybody that's overweight, if you knew 1 year from today you were going to be 25 pounds lighter, would you take it? And they'll say, yes, heck yes. Yeah. And the problem is everybody wants to be 25 pounds lighter tomorrow.
Yeah, and most of the time we don't just gain the weight like this. Although I would say most people can gain weight faster than they can lose it. So it's not necessarily the easiest thing to lose weight. And I actually have a personal training background, and I found that even when I would give people the healthiest diet and I would have them exercise, obviously I was personal training them, they still would have a hard time losing weight. And now that I study this type of work and naturopathy and looking at people's sleep and their stress and their toxic load, I realize that when people have too many toxins, they hold on to weight, just like what you're saying. So if we're dealing with the toxic load, which the infrared sauna is doing, then it makes complete sense to me why they're losing their weight. So if you lose the toxins, the fat surrounding it, they don't need that anymore, right?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. But you look at people, let's say people who drink, and they don't even have to be alcohol. They don't have to drink excessively, but they drink, let's say they drink every day. They're doing a certain amount of damage to their liver during that time. And people say, well, you drink, that's why I drink too much. That's why I'm heavy. I drink too much beer. I might guess that it is the damage to the liver and the liver not functioning at full capacity that is keeping the weight on them, and not necessarily as much the calories from the beer. I don't know. That's just a personal thought. I don't know what you think.
So I think that, yeah, the calories make a difference. But there's a huge amount of how the calories are processed. Now, if you're eating bad calories, the body's not going to process it the same way. And then eventually, if you have too much toxic load and all those organs we talked about, that the funnel, the ones like the liver and the gut and the kidneys are all backed up, yeah, nothing's going to function properly. So I don't know. I want to say it's both. I want to say it's the liver being backed up and the fact that it's just not really good calories. I don't know. I used to log my calories, and I did find that it was good for weight loss, but I can totally tell a difference in your body composition when you eat the good diet and not. So you can eat the same amount of calories, and if it's good calories versus not, your body's going to look completely different, and it's going to function differently as well too.
Yeah, agreed. I agree. What else can I tell you about this?
Well, there's always so many questions. You were the one that told me I always have so many questions about this, and I just love the technology. So I want to know also, why do you use cedar? Because when I tried some of these other ones, they're using different materials, and I knew there was something special about that cedar. Okay,
so first of all, you have to use, if you're looking to buy a sauna, so let's say I'm giving somebody advice about how to buy an infrared sauna. The first thing I would tell them is to look at the material that is surrounding your body. Are there toxins in it? Is there anything that's off-gassing? You'll see saunas around where you sit inside and you're covered to your neck. What's that material made of? Do your research, find out. I mean, it's obviously not cotton. If it's obviously not cotton, or a canvas material, if it is not, and a canvas material that isn't treated with formaldehyde, if it is plastic or it is some kind of space age material, then it's made from petroleum, and petroleum is toxic, and you're going to get about 7 or 8 different off-gassing chemicals from that sauna. So check the material that the sauna itself is made from. Check the EMFs, the electromagnetic fields that are being generated by the electricity, because if it's generating heat, it's from electricity, and if it's from electricity, there is a certain amount of EMFs, and that's important to check. This sauna is effectively 0 EMFs, and I'm not going to go into why, but I have all the documentation for that. And it's not built with any glues or toxins, so that we're not off-gassing any products. And the wood itself is unique in that it goes directly from the forest to the kiln, whereas most wood goes to a broker, it's treated with formaldehyde, then it's shipped to China, then they put it in a kiln, then they make saunas out of it. So now you're off-gassing formaldehyde in 90% of all saunas.
Oh my goodness.
And you don't know it. You just go in and go, that's an interesting smell. You know what I mean? But the cedar is generally so overwhelming that you don't smell the formaldehyde. But I know yours, when you get in your sauna, you smell the cedar, don't you?
I do. And my whole apartment right now smells like cedar.
Yeah. So you're never going to get any off-gassing from that sauna. Those are the main points. So The other reason that you use the wood cedar is because cedar is antibacterial, antimicrobial. So even if someone else sits in your sauna, they're not going to leave toxicity behind because the infrared and the combination of the infrared and the cedar is going to literally detox that sauna for you on its own.
I was wondering about that. How interesting. It cleans itself out.
It's self-cleansing.
I love it. So this is obviously quite different than a gym, a normal gym sauna, right?
Yeah, a gym. So there's two types of heat. There is radiant heat, which is penetrating heat, which is the heat that we're talking about, right? That actually bypasses your skin and interacts with the cells of your body and heats your body core temperature. And there is ambient heat. And that's when there's some kind of complex that heats the air, and you walk into a room of hot air, which then heats your skin and makes you sweat. The benefits from that, although they exist in minor ways, compared to infrared, are nothing. Basically very little. Although it soothes your muscles, it makes them feel good. It's like getting in a jacuzzi. But most people, when they get in a jacuzzi, aren't savvy enough to understand that you can't treat your jacuzzi with chlorine. Otherwise, you're trying to get better by poisoning your body with chlorine.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself.
Yeah. So stick with infrared. I tell people, stick with infrared. If it's between a jacuzzi and an infrared sauna, I don't care which one it is. Check for the EMFs, check the material that's surrounding you, and stick with infrared.
Nice. So can you tell us the difference between this personal infrared sauna and the Beamer?
So the Beamer, like we talked about this a little bit, the Beamer, I like the Beamer. It does a lot of good things. Everything that it does, this sauna does. The difference is this creates when there's a paper written by a doctor named Dr. Gerald Pollack, and it's called the fourth phase of water. And what infrared does, when water is treated with infrared, you can put a bucket of water, you can put a tube, a pipette, or anything, and the water will literally flow on its own through that pipette, right? That's how infrared supercharges water. It changes from H2O to H3O2. It changes the chemical structure of it and allows water to flow. The Beamer does not do that. So this is a passive flow of blood. Beamer forces the flow of blood. Both of them work, but this one takes pressure off the heart. I don't know how the Beamer affects the heart, so I'm not going to say. I'm just going to say ours takes the pressure off of the heart. But not only that, and just a quick side note, is the reason it's so effective for back issues, let's say, because the veins in the cartilage of the discs of the spine are so small that often the red blood cells that need to feed those veins to heal that disc are the red blood cells are bigger than the veins itself. Well, when you create nitric oxide with infrared, it's going to dilate those veins, and you create the infrared actually thins the blood and makes it flow according to Dr. Pollack's research. So now we have blood that is literally thinning itself out and flowing into those discs, and with the ability to actually heal a disc in the back instead of having to go for surgery and yank it out.
Oh, wow.
And that's extremely important and something that goes overlooked within the conversation of sitting in an infrared sauna. But 15 minutes a day or 30 minutes 3 times a week is not going to get you that same functionality. That's why we say time is more effective than temperature. So sitting in it longer. And so to answer your question, that is why I just stumbled over the question. What was the
Beamer?
Oh, the Beamer. Yeah. So that is why I like this better than the Beamer, because of the passive flow of blood, because how infrared alkalines, how it thins the blood, how it creates a flow, and the Beamer literally pushes. It's very aggressive to push the blood through the system. But there's a lot of good things about the Beamer. Don't get me wrong, except the price. This is a third of the price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I haven't tried it myself too, but I do know a lot of people that use it and have it, and I have no problem with that. But when I can find something that does something just as effective and maybe a third of the price, that's where for myself, I'm going to choose it, and I'm going to choose it for my clients as well too. Unless they really want, something that's more expensive, if it works, then go ahead. I'm not judging anyone.
No, neither am I.
Okay. So the last question I want to ask you is about dehydration. So when you go in there, you seem to mention that if you're going to get more dehydrated if you're sweating more, but it seems like maybe you might still get a little dehydrated. How do you rehydrate yourself?
Well, I think that I tell people 16 ounces of water for every 30 minutes in the sauna.
Okay.
Because not necessarily because we want to maintain hydration, but because we are pushing toxins, right? And we want to keep that mechanism open and flowing and moving, right? And that's why hydration is so important.
Okay.
You can sit in here for 4 hours and never have an episode of dehydration at 120 degrees where I'm sitting right now. But you might have a healing crisis if you don't drink enough water. I've seen it. I've seen people get out and run to the bathroom and puke.
Wow. Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, you're mobilizing toxins. And so do you know anything about using binders to bind the toxins?
No, but I'm not against it. I mean, I think because any binder or any chelation product is going to target a specific organ, right? But it's never going to target the subcutaneous layer of fat. So what the infrared does is it targets the infrared. I mean, it targets the subcutaneous layer, releases the toxins. Now those binders and those chelation products are going to be that much more effective.
Right. Well, I like to call it a sponge. So as we're mobilizing the toxins from the tissues, you take the binder, it actually helps to absorb it, so we're not having as much of a detox reaction.
And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. And if anybody wants to try this sauna out and you're in the Las Vegas area from August 23rd to 25th, then
at the Westgate?
At the Westgate, yeah, at the Westgate Casino. Rodney's going to be there, and you can try out Personal Infrared Sauna. You can see what all the hype is that I love this sauna for. And
yeah, tell me, I saw you on Dr. Jacqueline's podcast, and I will make sure that you get a better price than the person who didn't see this podcast. Let's just say.
Yeah, so take advantage of that. And, again, it's August 23rd through the 25th at the Westgate. And it's the ANMA convention. So if you go to anma.org, and if you're a local here in Las Vegas, you actually get in for free. Sorry for those of you that are not locals. But if you were here, then, I'd like to mention that as well, too. And if for some reason you can't try out the sauna there, I do want to get a bunch of these in my office at one point and do the therapies as I can. In the future, we can try them out in here. But to get a head start, if you're really interested in therapy, because obviously with all the benefits that we talked about, this is incredible. And it doesn't mean that you don't take your supplements or you don't eat healthy or you don't exercise. It's an extra addition to take your detox a whole nother level.
It does. What I tell people, Dr. Jacqueline, is that whatever you do, whether it's supplements, whether it's exercise, nutrition, because of how infrared treats the body, it's going to make every bit of that even better. It's going to boost everything that you do. It's going to make it better. Right.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So, and if, again, you can't make it to the convention, I do have these on my website. So if you go to thewellnesstrinity.com and you look at my store and look at Personal Infrared Sauna, you'll be able to learn more information about that there. So, Rodney, are there any other comments that you or Anything you want to mention?
Well, I think what you're saying is very important. It's and that is that it's really experiential. I mean, they could take our word and buy a sauna and know that they're going to get the benefits, but generally people want to sit in it first. But once they sit in it, they go, "Oh, I get it. I totally get it." And for those of you that might be coming to the convention, I'm bringing 2 brand new saunas. They're going to be used for 3 days. So there'll be, a couple dozen people in and out of them. I keep them immaculate, and I'm selling the floor models for a really, really good price. So if you're one of the first ones that comes up and says, "I want a floor model," you're going to get literally a brand new sauna for cheaper.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell all my clients that I know are already interested.
Oh, good. Yeah. The first come, first serve on those floor models.
Definitely. Well, that's exciting. So I agree. It is experiential. I learned a lot about infrared, but until I got into your particular sauna, I had no idea what I was in for. I was blown away with, we say these things are great, but when you actually feel incredible after you get out, it speaks for itself. Yeah,
we get that all the time. All the time. People, we say, "Hey, have a seat." No, have a seat. And they sit down and suddenly they say, I really don't want to get out. I have to have one of these. And so we know as a company, we have to get people in them for them to experience it. Once having experienced it though, my goodness, you don't not want to have it.
Right. Yeah. I told my husband for a whole year before I got this one, pretty much every day, "We need that sauna. We need that sauna."
Every time I saw you, "I'm getting that sauna." Okay.
Yeah, I had to put some money on the piggy bank here, to get it. But it was definitely I'm already still impressed, after having it just for 3 days. So let alone, in the future, I'm sure I'll have some great testimonies for you as well too.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I'm thankful to you for having me on here. I really appreciate that. And I really, really like you and how your practice and your personality. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Rodney. So we will chat again soon. I will see you at the convention.
I'll be there.
We'll get people healthy together.
High five. Yeah, good for you. Thank you, doctor.
Have a nice day.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Trinity podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more wellness tips to help you achieve optimal health. Don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.